So today we're going to talk about the endocannabinoid system and how it works. So basically, let's start with the word endocannabinoid system. Endo is short for endogenous. Endogenous means self-producing. So in other words, you self-produce cannabinoids endogenously that stimulate receptors, which are in the endocannabinoid system. So basically these receptors are CB1 and CB2 receptors. CB stands for cannabinoid receptor. So you have cannabinoid receptor 1, cannabinoid receptor 2, and basically they both have slightly different functions. So CB1 is in the brain and the central and peripheral nervous system. And so CB1 receptors are responsible for all of your neurological things, basically anything in the brain or central nervous system related. So that covers quite a bit of stuff. Then you've got your CB2 receptors, which are in the immune system and the organs and the skin and the muscle tissue and all of the other parts of the body where the CB1 receptors are not. So essentially, there's a few ways to hit the receptors. CB1 receptors are hit by inhalation or a sublingual tincture under the tongue because it bypasses digestion. So things that go under the tongue sublingually go into the bloodstream, they break the blood-brain barrier, and they go in and hit the CB1 receptor in the brain, which is what's responsible for all of your neurological responses. So anxiety, things of that nature. And then of course your central nervous system has a lot of CB1 receptors in it too. And when you activate those, it kind of brings on a sense of calm. The central nervous system can potentially shift out of the fight or flight stage and get more into a parasympathetic stage of calm. And once that happens, usually a cascade of events will occur in a good manner versus the way, the fight or flight stage has a lot of cascading events that occur that lead to all kinds of problems. So CB2 receptors are hit through an edible or ingesting it, a capsule, things of that nature, because it has to go through digestion. Then the liver gets a hold of it, and the liver puts it in all of the organs and everywhere else. So essentially, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune, any type of immune response, you want to take a capsule because it's going to get down in the digestive tract and get into the immune system. So CB2 receptors are extremely dominant in the immune system. And so it just, the idea is you want to get the cannabinoids to the right receptors. Depending on what you're trying to deal with, tells you what receptors to focus on. Now, both receptors would be great. Usually if somebody wants to kind of fast track their way into the CBD and just give it a real good go, you do a capsule once a day and you do the oil 1 to 3 times a day. Usually morning and night with the oil is the best time because it helps at night for sleep. CBD doesn't make you tired. It's not a suppressant or a depressant. It's a neuroregulator, so it's going to regulate any imbalances you have. So if sleeping is a problem, it's going to get in there. Taken sublingually, it's going to bypass digestion, go in, break the blood-brain barrier, and hit the CB1 receptors in the brain, and it's going to help your brain naturally start producing melatonin and start the process, and maybe even help people with REM sleep too, because it's a neuroregulator, so it's going to regulate basically your brain and the way it operates. And so the CB2 receptor potentially can do that, or actually eating capsules can potentially have an effect on CB1 receptors. It just takes a long time for it to go through digestion, up to 1 to 2 hours depending on metabolism and things. So if you're looking for a fast response, you want to do a sublingual or an inhalant, because those go straight to the brain. And so kids having seizures, people having panic attacks, things that need an immediate response, you would want to do a sublingual under the tongue or a vapor inhalant. You know, with CBD, a lot of times inhaling CBD isn't a bad thing. There's not the whole stigma of vapor, nicotine vapor and all that kind of stuff, because in these particular products there are no chemicals, there are no pollutants that can harm the body. It's basically just CBD being heated up gently enough to vaporize the cannabinoid and allow you to get it into the system much faster than any other way, basically. So somebody having a panic attack, they can hit a vapor pen a couple times and pretty much within seconds sometimes be out of that. Sublingual under the tongue absorbs through the mucosa system, and so it gets in very rapidly. But the book says it can take 0 to 30 minutes. So somebody who, you know, you just never know how long it's going to take. It usually takes people up to 5 minutes is what I think the average time is for sublinguals to kick in. So if you need it to kick in faster than 5 minutes, such as a panic attack or anxiety attack, where you're on the road in the car like we are right now, and all of a sudden you have a panic attack or an anxiety attack or rapid heart rate or some kind of issue to where you can't, you know, you just don't have the time to do an oil and hold on your tongue and wait for 5-10 minutes. It's more of a thing you can just use it. It's a convenience thing. You know, it gets the CBD, you know, in there quicker. And so, yep. So basically,
tell me about anandamide.
Anandamide, yeah. So that's the endogenous cannabinoid. So the two endogenous cannabinoids, or self-producing cannabinoids, are anandamide and 2-AG. Those are the body's own natural cannabinoids that we produce naturally that stimulate our endocannabinoid system. And there's 3 ways. There's a few ways that the body produces it naturally. One of them is omega-3 fatty acid intake. So avocados, fish oil, you know, plant-sourced omegas are great because the body takes those omega-3s and converts them into anandamide. And so that is why when you eat heavy omega-3s, you kind of feel good. You kind of feel calm because that's your body's producing cannabinoids, endocannabinoids, and they're binding to the CB1 receptor. So the second way is heavy exercise. That's what runner's high is when you get to that point where you just kind of break through and you push through and you start to get those endorphin releases, you start to get those, what they call runner's high. What's going on there is your body's basically producing anandamide again, which is then binding to the CB1 receptor in the brain, giving you all the neurological benefits of the cannabinoid receptor being activated. And so the third way is deep meditation. Deep meditation will put you into a sense of Zen, a state of Zen, where you will feel very calm, very relaxed. And again, that's your body producing anandamide, which binds to the CB1 receptor, the cannabinoid receptor in your brain. That's an endocannabinoid, an endogenous or a self-producing cannabinoid that activates your CB1 receptor. And then again, the fourth way is breast milk. When a woman's lactating, she basically is producing a lot of endocannabinoids, a lot of 2-AG, which actually hit the CB2 receptor and all of the organs and the peripheral organs and all of the different CB2 receptors that are in the body, that is responsible for all of the cellular communication within the cells, within the immune system, within all the other systems that get everything regulated and get everything communicating with each other on a central level. That's the function of the cannabinoid receptors, is they allow cellular communication to occur within the cells. And so once that's happening, cells are actually able to not only send, but also receive messages. And so what that means is is that the central nervous system doesn't have to send the message 50,000 times in order for the signal to be received. It sends it once, it gets received. There just so happens to be a cannabinoid receptor on the pre and the post synaptus. So when a signal is sent and it's supposed to bridge across synaptus and be received, and it's not, it's because the cannabinoid receptor isn't activated. And so as soon as you activate those cannabinoid receptors, the signal bridges across. It's kind of like the electrical circuit being turned on so that signals can bridge across synaptus and be received and go on down the chain. And so that's what's going on with fibromyalgia. That's what's going on with a lot of these conditions that are really hard to treat with different medications and things, because there's only two things that activate the cannabinoid receptors, and that's endogenous cannabinoids and that's phytocannabinoids. They either come within or they come from a plant. And there just so happens to be a plant out there called cannabis that activates our cannabinoid receptors. And basically the human body, I don't think, is able to produce enough cannabinoids endogenously to maintain this very intricate system that regulates every other system in the human body. That's a very steep task to ask of any system. And so basically you would have to run 10 miles a day and eat 100 avocados and while meditating and doing all of these other things at the same time in order for your body to produce enough endocannabinoids basically to regulate itself. And you know, that's pretty much the deal. And so we're going to take a break because we're getting gas, and we'll continue this soon. This car's so noisy, you know.